Okay, Zok Tahilka Gemara. We are up to Daf Pei, but we're going to start from the very bottom of Daf Pei Dalad Amud Beis. So yesterday, the sugya that we were discussing was if a moicher is selling to a loikeach, and he takes the payers and he puts them on the floor in a simta. There was a machloikis between Reb Asi and Reb Zera what Reb Yochanan would hold under those circumstances. Reb Asi said that Reb Yochanan would say that it would be a kinyan. So somehow, even though I'm not taking it, the moicher is putting it by me in the simta, I'm going to be kind of it. And Reb Zera says, no, if he put it into my Keilim, Mamela, but if he put it onto the floor, it wouldn't be kind of. And the Gemara had a discussion back and forth. It seems like the Gemara's came out in the Maskana, and the Gemara tried to bring rayas back and forth. The Gemara didn't bring a raya, but the Gemara tried to bring a couple of rayas that it wouldn't work. But I don't know if the Gemara had a raya in the Maskana, other than Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yochanan, who brought a shita from Rabbi Yochanan that said loikana. So the Gemara had to say one is speaking in Keilim, one is speaking not in Keilim. But even after that, the Gemara still kept on trying to bring rayas, which led us to another discussion, which was Keilav Shal Adam Kaina Lo B'Chama. So let's get into that sugya, which we will start today. And it starts right at the bottom of the Pedal Amud Beis. Rav Shmuel, Damar Tavayu. Rav and Shmuel both agree that Keilav Shal Adam Kaina Lo B'Chol Makom Chutz Mirishus Harab. So let's see what the Rashbam says about that. Keilav Shal Adam Shal Keach Kaina Lo will be kaina for him in Pasak Damim. Of course, it means only if they made it a price, because that's a given across the board. If they never discussed the price and they never confirmed the price, there's never a kinyan, because who said we're going to end up coming to an agreement? So in Pasak Damim, then the Keilav Shalodam, meaning the Keilav Lekeach, will be kind of b'chol makom afilu b'shus moicher. So even though I am in your property, my Keilim create an independent rishus, and I'm calling it because it's my chotcher, not because I made Mashiach, not because I made Hagbah. My Keilim represent an independent rishus in your rishus that will be kind for me. It has to be speaking. The discussion here can only be if the moicher tells the Lekeach, I would like your Keilim to be kind for you. Like it'll come out later. I will bistama, but if they just do it, the payers that the moicher is selling are merely placed into the Keilim of the Lekeach without the moicher saying, go be kaina, mi boilon the kaman v'lo yavshita. That's a shaila that the Gemara is not pushing. So our discussion here is where the moicher says, go be kaina. And not go be kaina, I want your Keilim B'dafka to be kaina for you. So clearly the moicher is also sort of relinquishing his property rights, and he's letting the Keilim create their own property rights. Only there is where Rav and Shmuel say that Keilav Adam are kind of Rishus HaMoicher. And to frame the Shaila, which the Rashbam will frame it a little later, is do you say that the Keilim can create its own Rishus within somebody else's Rishus, or do you say the ultimate Rishus is the Chotzer that it's in, and no Keli can be Mavatal that? Okay, Chutz Rishus HaRabim, V'hu Adin L'Chotzer She'eina Shal Shneim, so too a chosher that belongs to neither of them, that'll come clear soon in a brisa we're about that. So I don't know if what I'm saying is true, but since you need the moicher to say yiknalach kelecha, so he's sort of giving you rishus in my rishus, right? In Rishus Rabbim, who's going to tell you that? In the chosher she'ein shneim, who's going to tell you that? Okay. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, they both agree. The Amrit Havayu afilu birshus harab. This works so powerfully that it even works in Rishus Harab. That means the Keli independent is its own Rishus, whether or not anyone granted permission to be that way. Amar Papa Aloipli, but there's no machloikis. Kan Rishus Harabim, kan v'simta. When Rav and Shmuel said Chutz Rishus Harabim, it means a Rishus Harabim. When Rabbi Yochanan and Shlagish said even a Rishus Harabim, they didn't really mean Rishus Harabim. They really mean Simta. In fact, Gemara, if you meant Simta, why would you use the word Rishus HaRabim? Zok the Gemara, she'ein Rishus HaYochid. because it's not Rishus HaYachid. So they use Rishus HaRabim just to make it clear that it's not Rishus HaYachid. But they really meant a symptom. Hachanami mistaver, and it's mistaver to learn pshat that way. The Amar Abavo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So this is once again Abavo in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So it would shed light on Rabbi Yochanan Shita. Keilim shall adam kain aloi b'chol makom. The keilim of a person will be kain for him wherever those keilim are. Sheyesh lo rishus lanicha, where he's allowed to place them. Yesh lo rishus in, ein lo rishus lo. Shema amina. You're not allowed to place your keli smack on the floor in middle of Rishus HaRabim, but in a simta you are allowed to place your keli. So therefore, in a simta, the keli will be keli for you, but in Rishus HaRabim, the keli will not be keli for you. Let's have a look at the Rishbam on the second line. Kol mokum sheyesh l'rishus, go in simta, the chatzar shotfim, or Rishus moicher, when the moicher wants him to. Going to Amalei zil kni kidal kaman. If the moicher is specifically saying, be kind of for me, be kind of in your keli, obviously the moicher is giving your shus to the lakach to put his keli there. Toshma. So now we have a very, very interesting price. Arba midos b'moicher. I have to think about that. On today's daf?
No.
Oh, not today's daf, in general. Okay, we have to think about it. Tashma, Arba midos b'moicher. There's 4 midos b'moicher. And what these 4 midos are, the Rashbam says there's 4 different cases that are relevant to discuss. Arba midos b'moicher. Ad shaloi nismala mida l'moicher, mishin nismala mida l'lakeh. The Gemara is going to end up clarifying that this means that the keli that they're using to measure the peiros is a keli of a third party. They're located in the rishus of a third party, and the Rice is saying that while we're filling up this measuring keli to measure out whatever the order is going to be, during that process, the keli is considered in the rishus of the moicher, and therefore whatever is in there is the moicher. In other words, the lakech wasn't koinit yet. But once they finish measuring out whatever it is that's being sold, now the intention of the owner of the keli is to transfer the ownership of the keli to the lakech to take it home. So that's at that point it's the lakech's keli, and therefore the lakech is going to be koinit. This only makes sense if this midah is a keli, a measuring type of keli that belongs to neither of them. So therefore, first it's being lent to the moicher, and once it's full, it's being lent to the lakeh. But if the keli belonged to either the lakeh or the moicher, rishon kana. Rishon kana means if it's in the lakech's keli, every little piece that goes in, the lakech's kana automatically. And if it's the moicher's keli, it means the moicher it retains it, and the lakech's not koin at all, as long as it's in the kelim of the moicher. Where did we say that the keli of a person is being koin for him, and it supersedes wherever it is? That's b'rishus harabim. That's in a rishus harabim uv'chatzar she'eino shel shneim, or in a chatzar that belongs to neither of them. Avo b'rishus moicher. But if it's in their b'rishus moicher, loy kana, you won't be koinit ad sheyag bihena, until you make a kinyan agba, oy ad sheyotzien b'rishusoi, or until it's taken out of the rishus of the moicher. Rishus lakeach. What if it's in the rishus lakeach? Kivon shekibul alav moicher. So here you have a door-to-door salesman. He's in the house of the lakeach. The moment they decide on a price and they come to a deal, Kivon shekibul alav moicher kana lakeach right away, because it's already in the rishus of the lakeach. What about rishus halah hamavkodim etzloi? What if they were in neither's rishus? They were in the rishus of a third party. They were both visiting someone else's house. Then it's loy kana Achi Kabbalah, he won't be koina until he's mekabel upon him. We'll have to see what that means. Oy achi yisker es mekaiman, or until he rents their place. So before we focus on the raya that the Gemara wants to bring from this brisa, let's run through the Rashbam to get a little bit more clarity in what all these cases are. So I'm going to read the Rashbam from its bold lettering inside. Abba midas b'moicher, acholoi nismala mida l'moicher, b'shnismala mida l'lekeach, and that is when they're borrowing the Keilim. If the Keilim belong to one of them, Rishon Kana, which clearly tells us that the Keilim of a person are Kana, we'll soon see, even it seems like even B'Shus Moicher. But if it was in the Shus Lekeach, you're Kana right away, keep it a love, Moicher is a Kana. So the rise is going to be very easy. But Medavar Mamor B'Shus Rabbim, which is mashma that even in B'Shus Rabbim, the Keilim are Kana. So that's the ride that Gemara is going to bring, but let's just go through the details of the brisa. B'Shus Moicher, if they're in B'Shus Moicher, Lekana Achiak Bia, until he makes Akba, or Yatchi Yoytzi B'Shus Habayim, or until the Mechef lets it out, and B'Shus Zam of Kodem Etzloi, if it's in the Rishus of a third party, Lekana Ad Sheyikabel Olav, Oy Ad Sheyiskar Es Mekayim. Dr. Rashbam, Upirish Arba Midas B'Moichem. Don't make a mistake to think that the Arba Midas are referring to the four different locations: Rishus Harabim, Rishus Lakeach, Rishus Moicher, and the Rishus of a third party. Don't make that mistake, because the halachas aren't different just because they're found in one of these four places. So Dr. Rashbam, Upirish Arba Midas B'Moichem Labdal Rishus Kachoshev, Rishus Harabim, Rishus Moicher, Rishus Lakeach, and Rishus Hamav Kadem. That's not the Arba Midas that the Tana is referring to, because those Arba Midas don't necessarily differ in their halacha. For instance, the Rishus Moicher, Rishus Nifkat Chadahu, the halacha of if the payers are found in the Rishus of the Moicher, where the Brisa says you have to make a Meshicha or Akbar and take it out of there, or if it's in the Rishus of a third party, what does the Mishnah say? You have to rent the space from him. Either way, you got to get it out of the Rishus, so it's not yours. So they really have the same halacha. The main thing, the similarity between the Rishus Moicher and the Rishus of a third party is that it's not the Rishus of the Lekech. So therefore, they both have the same halacha. The halacha, Shaykh Lemimar Kabbalah, Uschir Smakim, Vaitzah, Vagba. All four methods apply equally to the Rishus of Moicher as well as to the Rishus of a third party. Danan b'masnisin, Datnan b'masnisin. We learned in our Mishnah, Gaber Rishus Moicher, Schir Smakim. Even by the Rishus Moicher, it's not only by the Rishus of a third party. Even if it's in the Rishus of the Moicher, you could rent the space from the Moicher himself. The Katani, our very Mishnah that we just learned yesterday said, if the Lakeach is a Pikeach and he wants to seal the deal so that the Moicher can't back out, he would rent the space in the Moicher's property where these items are that he wants to buy, and he'll be cutting it right away with Chatzar. And we already explained that Mishnah that we learned, I think it was 2 days ago, is speaking, if the pairs are in the property of the Moicher, he could rent the Moicher's property. So this solution that the Brisa that we just learned tells us that if it's in the Rishus of a third party, you could be Sarchus Makaiman, that Eitzah works equally if it was in the Rishus of Moicher. The Chibin, the Din and Shava, since the halacha of how to be kind of something, whether it's in the Rishus of Moicher or whether it's in the Rishus of a third party, like a Dalet Midas. So if you say that the Dalet Midas that the Tana is referring to is the four different domains, that doesn't work, because the Rishus of Moicher and the Rishus of a third party are one and the same halachically. So what are the four categories that we're referring to? Umahin Arba Midas, Dalet Chilukin Shel Dinin. There's four possibilities of what the halacha will be, not necessarily tied to a specific Rishus. Shechalukin Zemizeh, the Elohen, and these are the four categories. Mida she'ena shel shneim. You can have a case of where the property belongs to neither the Moicher or the Lekach, which is B'Shus Harabim, or B'Chatzar she'ena shel shneim, or a Chatzar of a third party. Tamrina ba, there we say, Ad sheloi nismalas hamida leMoicher, until the Keilim is filled up. The Keilim belongs to the Moicher, and therefore the pairs inside it belong to the Moicher. None of it is sold. But Mishanish Malas Hamida, but once the amount is in there and it's full, then it's Lilakech, Harayachas. So that halacha of until the keli is filled up belongs to the moicher, and after it's filled up, it belongs to the lakech. That's one psak category. Then you have midah shel echad mehen. If the midah belongs to one of the two, whether it's the moicher or the lakech, the payers stay in that person's rishus or immediately transfers into that person's rishus, depending on whether or not the moicher or lakech. Rishon kana haresh times. That's the second halacha. That whoever owns the keli, it's his payers. The third halacha is rishus lakeach. If it's in the rishus of the lakeach on the floor, miyad kishakibel moicher kana. The moment the moicher is agreeable to the deal, the kinyan happens right away because the payers are physically sitting in the rishus of the moicher hare gimel, and rishus moicher or rishus nifkad, and rishus moicher and rishus nifkad, which the Rishbam started off by illustrating that they have the same halacha. The kamafarish bohen din hagbaha v'itza kabbalah uschiris harei dalit. Here you have your four halachas that the Bryce is referring to. Usmach matzasi li b'divhi Rabbeini Zikni. He found a hint to this in the writings of Rashi Zatzal. Okay, so we have all of our halachas. Let's just have a look. Kivon shekibel olav moicher. What does the kibel olav moicher mean? Because that was one of the solutions to allow the lakech to be kind of. So I'm further down in the Rashbam. Shenisratza, once he's willing, well, Amaleni told him, Kol Tvu Azu Knuyala, the Kach, Kol Sovasa, all of this Tvu is yours, and it's X dollars per saw, Kana Lakeach, the Lakeach will be kind of miyad. No, this is actually the wrong Rashbam. This is referred to when it's in the Rishus of the Lakeach. Aval Pi Shaloi Madad, even though you didn't measure it yet, as long as we agreed on the price, measuring is just to see how many pounds you bought. But we've already agreed how much you're going to pay me per pound or per liter, whatever the measurement is. The kadila rishusay, the rishus of the lekeh, will be kadit for him. The afapi shamido shal moicher, even though the measuring keli belongs to the moicher, takli bottle eitel rishus. The keli will be bottle to the rishus. Okay, so what achi kabel? That's what I was looking at. Achi kabel of nifkad the mitzvahs mafkid liyachid leirishus lelakayach liknois hapeiros. So if it's in the rishus of a third party, we said either you have to rent the space, either the buyer has to rent the space from this third party, or the moicher, who is the one who placed the peiros by the third party, he had placed it in storage. He has to tell the storage facility liyachid leirishus lelakayach to designate a place in his storage for the lekeach on behalf of the lekeach, liknois hapeiros b'asher husha. So that the lekeach will be able to be kind of the peiros because he will now be designated the space in the storage facility. Osha Yiskor, or the lekeach can go to the storage facility on his own and rent a locker there. Dinami gaber rishus moicher. This same halacha, as the Rishbam said several times, applies b'rishus moicher shayich kabbalah v'schiris. You don't have to make hagbah like our Brisa said. Our Haitzah, there's two other ways to accomplish this is with kabbalah and schiris, which are the same two eitzes that the Brisa offers when the item being sold is in a third party facility. And as well, if it's in a third party facility, the lakech can be kind by making hagbah or by taking it out. So they're interchangeable solutions. All four work for both scenarios. So why did the Tana decide to place the hagbah and Eitzah in the Rishus HaBailim and the Kabbalah and the Schiris when we're talking about a storage facility, a third party? The Tana used solutions that would be typical in those particular scenarios. The star moicher, a normal seller, kisha moicher, roitzahu lifnais his base. Normally, when a moicher sells, he wants to clear space out. He wants to clear up his warehouse to bring in more inventory. Because that's the norm of what would happen. The moicher would tell the lekech, take your product that you purchased and get it out of here. If I'm a retail store, I'm not a storage facility. So get it out of here. But when it's by a storage facility, kabbalah and schiris would be the simplest approaches. Just like the moicher was using the services as the storage facility up until the point that he sold it, the storage facility will be happy to take on the buyer as a client and now rent them storage space. V'rabusa tana hacha kabbalah schiris the kol shekein hagbala b'tzah. Even kabbalah schiris would work in the case of a storage facility, but avada hagbala b'tzah would work as well. If the keich picked it up and walked out with it, avada, that would be a good kinyan. Okay, so let's go a little bit weiter. So Zok to Gemara. Now that we got a little bit of a clarity in the Brisa, and the Brisa is talking about 4 halachic scenarios, not 4 different reshuyos. Let's see what information we can extract from this Brisa. Katani miya reshus harabim ubechater she'eneh shoshnei. So what was it referring to? If we look back at the Brisa, al mahayimida shalach ben rishon rishon kana v'amed devar mamurim reshus harabim ubechater she'eneh shoshnei. Meaning, if it's in your keli, it belongs to you. If it's in the keli of the moicher, it remains by the moicher. If it's in the keli of the keach, is automatically kaini. Even in B'Shus Harabim, u'lechater she'eneh shoshnei. So turning on Talmud Beis, my love, B'Shus Harabim mamish. When it says B'Shus Harabim, maybe you could suggest that B'Shus Harabim means B'Shus Harabim. Now all bets are off because we already learned that some people refer to a simta as B'Shus Harabim. But my love, let's say when the Rashi says Rishus Harabim, how innovative! It actually means what it says. Maybe it means Rishus Harabim. And if that's the case, Zok Rashbam, Bafilu Achi Katani, Dim Hoysam Ida Shal Echad Men Rishon Kana. Even if it's a Rishus Harabim, if the produce is in the keli of the moicher, it remains by the moicher. And if the produce is in the Keilim of the lekech, as it goes in one by one, the lekech is instantly kained. What do you see from here? Alma Keilim Shalokech, Rishus Harabim kained. You see quite clearly that Keilim Shalokech, Rishus Harabim kained. And this is going to cause a huge problem because the Kashalam and Amar Chutz Rishus Harabim, it'll be shver according to Rav and Shmuel, because they said Keilim of the kained Rishus Harabim does not work. And according to Rav, it's also shver, because Rav explained Rabbi Yechon in a way that Rishus Harabim doesn't really mean Rishus Harabim. If you take them at face value, that Rishus Harabim means Rishus Harabim, that stems with this Brisa. But Rabbi modified it. And even when Rabbi Yechon said Rishus Harabim, he didn't really mean Rishus Harabim, he only meant the symptom. But here from this Brisa, it seems that even in Rishus Harabim, the Keilim of a Moicher or Lekach will work for them. Zakmar Loi, we're going to deflect the Raya symptom. Just like Rabbi deflected what Rabbi Yechon meant, will deflect what the Brisa means. And we'll say when the Brisa says Rishus Harabim, it means symptom. For the Gemara, that doesn't work in this case because 2 cases were paired together. What did the Brisa say? We're comparing, like about this Shaila of Keilim being kinda, we're comparing a Rishus Harabim to a Chater she'eino shel shneim. Let's look at what the comparative is. My Chater she'eino shel shneim, Nami. I'm sorry. So it's Chater she'eino shel shneim. You can't say it's a simta because a simta is a simta. Everybody has a right to put their things down there. And we bout in this brisa, we're comparing Rishus Harabim to a Chater she'eino shel shneim, where neither of us have a right to put anything down there. It must be Rishus Harabim mamish. So we're back to square one. Now you have a right that your Keilim can be kind for you, even though you're in a Rishus Harabim mamish. So tomorrow, no, my Chater she'eino shel shneim nami. The loy the high kula, the loy the high kula. It's not completely his. It's not completely his. Elo deter value. They both have a connection to it. So, so what does it mean? It doesn't mean when Chater she'eino shel shneim doesn't mean it's a third party Chater, because then it's the same thing. The Rishus Harabim would mean the same thing. And in either case, how can you say the Keilim are kinda? Zok Rashbam, when we say initial shneim, means it doesn't belong to each one independent of the other. But there's shutfim in it. A chatzara shutfim, it makes sense that my kelim should work in a chatzara shutfim. In a simta, it makes sense that my kelim should work. But in a Rishus Harabim, or in literally someone else's property, there my kelim wouldn't work. So we're still remaining with our shaila of kelim of the lekach, Rishus Harabim, or kelim of the moicher. Kelim, Rishus Harabim, does the keli create its own rishus, or it's bottle to the rishus that it's found in. Boy minei, and so far we have not answered that child. Boy minei Rab Sheshes merafun. Now Rab Sheshes has a different shaila of Rab Huna. Keilim shaloikeach b'rshus moicher. So b'rshus harabim, we seem to have said that everybody agrees it wouldn't work, right? Everybody thinks it wouldn't work. The way Rabbi Bava explained Rabbi Yochanan, it wouldn't work. It only works in a symptom. But what about b'rshus moicher? Keilim shaloikeach b'rshus moicher. So it's very simple. You go into a store, and nowadays it's always Keilim shaloikeach b'rshus moicher because you have to bring your own bags, right? And even if you don't bring your own bag, you got to buy a bag. So could you be kind of in the grocery store? You have your own bag. As soon as the product goes into your bag, even if you're not holding the bag, if you're holding the bag, then there's hagbah involved, right? So the bags are on the counter. They put in the bag. Will that create an instant kinyan? So it could be that's why they made a law in many cities that you have to bring your own bags because they wanted to manifest the gemara. They wanted to have our gemara b'poil.
If you buy the bag, as long as you're not.
You have to kind of the bag too. So you first have to make hagbah on the bag. That's right.
Enough to
What-
make
what's
the
like
gift
on
of
bag?
bag.
That's why they don't bag it for you because they want you to be kind of. To all on this. If no feels with chap what I'm done they are, it's unbelievable. They shouldn't say we don't give bag. They should say Ein Bava Basra Daf Pevov. We follow the principles on Bava Basra Daf Pevov. But the emphasis on the pay, but Vov. Sagt the Gemara weiter. Boy minei Rav Sheshes merafuna. Keilim shaloikeach b'rshus moicher. Kana loikeach oilon. Will the loikeach be kind or not? Let's have a look at the Rishbam to clarify the shaila. Keilim shaloikeach b'rshus moicher kagoyin. Pasak v'nasan l'toich midish shaloikeach. We already made up the price, and I'm putting the product in to the keli that loikeach has. We use the word midah because we made up how much I'm charging you per pound or per liter, and you have the measuring tool, you have the measuring cup, so we're putting it into your measuring cup. So as we're putting it in, we're adding to the mecher.
Measuring cup is cool.
Right. So I'm telling you, so the Lekech didn't have a shopping bag, he actually came with a measuring cup. Oy modad the midah shaloi, or it could be where the moicher used his own measuring cup, the shachvar lekelev shalakech. And as he measured out each little bit, he poured it into the blank keli of the kech. But this is occurring in the store that belongs to the moicher. Kana lekech? Do we say the lekech is kana? Keilu nasan l'toich reshusah shalakech, as if you put the pears into the reshus shalakech, meaning the keli becomes an independent reshus within the moicher's reshus. Oiloi kana the reshus iker fakli bottle lagabe harishus. So that's really how the Rishbam frames the shaila. Is the keli bottle to the reshus that it's in, or is the keli an independent reshus? That is the shaila. Keilim shalakech reshus moicher kana lakech hayloi. Amar lei. So Rav Huna said to Nisua, I think we have a brisa. Where in the sugya of Gittin, what does it say? The husband wants to give the wife a get. So she's sitting in his property, Zarkula l'toichek, and he threw the get into her lap, or kalsa, or into some type of basket that they used to use. Harezim migoreshes, she will be migoreshes. So isn't this a classic case? These are the Keilim, the kalsas is the keli of the Lekech, it's the keli of the woman who's receiving the get, and she's in the chotzer, in the reshus of the moicher, or in this case her husband, and she's migoreshes. So you see her keli was kind of for her. Amar le Rav Nachman said, that's not a good raya at all. You picked the worst possible brisa to bring a raya from, because this brisa has so many holes in it that you can't even begin to imagine that this is so not a raya. Amar Rav Nachman, my time of pashat dalamehi. Why in the world would you have out of all the places that you might have found to bring a raya to, you bedavka pick this brisa? The machula mea uchli beuchla. There's 100 holes shot into this raya. Because there's 100 different reasons why that get worked, and it's not because Keilim shalakeach versus moicher. Let's have a look at the Rishbam. The machila mea uchli beuchla kloimar shadi benarga. There's a wrench thrown into the gears over here. Mea hakoya. It's 100 different beatings. Kiku b'mishko sheshma uchla. So an uchla is a type of scale. You smashed it. You broke it to pieces. So it's a figurative term. This is a scale that's been smashed into 100 pieces because so many things interfere with it. The Beperek HaZoyek Parchinon, because in Gittin, the Gemara suggests the same shaila. Shemami no Keilim shelakach, which is moicha kana lakach, umetarti kol hani amiroy halsam delotelnifna. And the whole list of amiroyim came up with a svara why that brisa of Gittin is not relevant to the overall shaila of Keilim shelakach b'shus hamoicha. So now we're going to list off some of the terutzim. First of all, it's speaking where the basket's not sitting on the floor, she's standing holding on to it. So that's a kahagba, because she's lifting it. We're not talking about something that's being dragged on the ground. It's like she's literally lifting it up. Even if she's not lifted up, if it's connected to a strap that she's dragging, that's also not like a regular case of Keilim Shalakach. She's pulling it.
Is the kalsa hers?
Yes.
Yes.
No, she can have something. If her husband gives her something, I'm not saying I'm sure, but she can get that.
Usually when you give your wife a present.
So I want to hold off for a second because one of the terutzim might support what you're saying. So let's see the other terutzim. It's sitting mamish in between her legs. That's mamish her personal space. What impact did that have? Even though it's in the karka, everybody considers where their wife is sitting, that's hers. That's her domain. Even before the get was thrown, even before she had the kalsas, a person's lap is their personal space. That would not be bottled to the property that it's in. So this might have to do with what you said. So look at the responses. He sold kaldos. I mean, there are kaldos everywhere. He's not makbid on any kaldos on his property. It's speaking in a kaldos warehouse. There's no akpada whatsoever that she should keep her kaltos there. So therefore, he's makbid that mokim to her. At least the guy by keeping the kaltos here. So I'm not sure if it's his basket or her basket, but whatever the case is, he's the place where she is and where her basket is. He's being mafker to her. So in all these cases, you don't say that the keli is bottled to the rishus because of these specific reasons. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, mokem cheka kanila. Wherever her lap is, that's kani to her. Mokem kalta kanila. Wherever her basket is kani to her. Omar Rava, and Rava said, my time Rabbi Yochanan, why are these places kanila? Nobody's makbid on those places. So therefore, we don't look at it like it's the rishus of the husband, and that domain will override the rishus of the keli. But we're talking about, and that's where Bava is not a problem. But our shaila is an algemein shaila overall. If it's not in such a scenario, will my keli be kind for me? So we have to delete that raya. That raya we shot down with 100 terut. Let's see if we can bring a raya to our shaila. Are the kelim of the lekeach kind of rishus hamoicher? Maybe we can bring a raya from the next line in the brayso that we just quoted. For Rishus Moicher, if they're in the Rishus HaMoicher, loikana achi yagbiena oy achi yotziena Rishusa. Right? That's one of the cases we just discussed in the brayso on Amud Aleph, that if they're in the Rishus HaMoicher, the only way for the lekech to be kainit is to make hagbah and or remove it from the Rishus of the Moicher. My love, what was the case over here? Whose Keilim are these payers in? The Keilim of the Lekech. Let's assume that they're in the Keilim of the Lekech. Yet, nevertheless, the Brisa says that the Keilim of the Lekech, Rishus HaMoicher, will not be kaina unless it's removed from the Rishus HaMoicher. So you have a raya that Keilim shel Lekech, Rishus HaMoicher, will not be kaina. So Dr. Gemara Loi, the Keilim of the Moicher. The case of Rishus Moicher is speaking where it's in the Keilim of the Moicher. So therefore, the only way for the Lekech to be kainit would be to make hagbah or to take it out of the rishus. Okay, so now you want to say that this brisa is all discussing where the payers were in the kelim of the moicher. Okay, so let's see if that fits with the rest of the brisa. Umidereisha bekelim of the moicher, seifanami bekelim of the moicher. If you want to suggest that the discussion on the brisa on the Amud Aleph is Keilim the Moicher. Well, let's see how that fits into the next case. Ema Sefer. Rishus Lekeach. What if it was in the Rishus Lekeach, but in the Keilim of the Moicher? Kivon Jekibel Alof Moicher. Once the Moicher was agreeing to whatever deal they made, Kana Lekeach. Lekeach is instantly Kana everything. Why? Because it's in the Lekeach Rishus, but it's in the Moicher's Keilim. The Ibe Keilim the Moicher. Amai Kana Lekeach. Why would the Lekeach be Kana? Zok the Gemara, Zok the Rishbam. The Ibe Keilim the Moicher. Amai Kana. L'didoch. According to you, the Azaz Basar Kli. If you're going to tell me, you want to make the argument that the Keilim, your Keilim and someone else's Rishus, create its own independent domain, well, in the Moicher's Keilim, in the Rishus HaLekeach, should also have an independent domain. You don't say that the Keilim is bottle to the Rishus that it's in. So if it's in the Moicher's Keilim, even though it's in the Rishus of the Lekeach shouldn't be kind of right away, because the Keilim of the Moicher will not be bottle to the Rishus of the Lekeach. Why would Lekeach be kind of right away just because it's in his Rishus? Because it's in his Keilim, and you want to make the argument that the Keilim are going to be kind of, and it won't be bottled to the Rishus that it's in. Elavade Basar Rishus has Lina. So you have a raya that you do go Basar Rishus, V'loy Basar Kli. And that's why the Hilchach Bei Moicher, if it's in the property of the Moicher, Harei Shal Moicher, it belongs to the Moicher, even if it's in the Keilim of the Lekeach, Achiach Bia Lekeach, until the Lekeach makes Hagbah. Loishna Bekelim the Lekeach, Loishna Bekelim the Moicher. Whose Keli it is in is irrelevant. What's relevant is whose property it's in. Ubei Lekeach, and if you're in the property of the Lekeach, Kan Lekeach, Fafilu Ihava Bekelim the Moicher. So we have so you seem to have arrived from here. You seem to have arrived from here that you only go Basar the Rishos. Zok to Gemara, no. Zok to Gemara, no. Let's say not. Because the Moicher, my kind of Lekeach. Zok Gemara Seifa Ashon Lekelev Lekeach. In the case where it was in the Rishus of the Moicher, there it means it was in the Keilim of the Moicher. Because if it was in the Keilim of the Lekeach, in fact, the Keilim would be kind. And the case where it was in the Rishus of the Lekeach, it's speaking where it was in the Keilim of the Lekeach. My paskas. Why would you say logically that when the Bryce is talking about the Rishus HaMoicher, it means they were using the Moicher's Keilim, and if it was in the Rishus of the Lekeach, it means that they're using the Lekeach's Keilim. So that's very logical. Stama de Milsa, Bei Moicher, Mani de Moicher Shchichi. Bei Lekeach, Mani Lekeach Shchichi. If we're doing the deal in my store, chances are we'll use my measuring. When you go into the butcher and you're buying a half a pound of corned beef, no one comes with his Weight Watcher scale to measure it. You use the scale that they have there in your store. But if you're a door-to-door salesman and you go into someone's house, you might use the scale that the homeowner has set up over there. So it's logical to say that the case would have changed based on who. It's logical to say that whose Keilim they're using to measure them will change based on where it is, because that's the norm. So therefore, you don't have a raya. So we still have a shaila of Keilim shel Moicher b'shus Lekeach, and who adin Keilim shel Lekeach b'shus Moicher. Do the Keilim create an independent rishus to be kaina with chotzer or not? Amar Rav Tashma. So let's try another raya. Mashach chamorav upay alav. What if you have donkey drivers that have on them produce, and you pull them into your rishus or upay alav? So you're not making a Mashiach on the produce, you're making a Mashiach on people who have produce on them. So the halacha is, that's not a good kinyan. It doesn't make a difference if they made up a price or not. They can both be chayzer, because that's not any kinyan, pulling people. Let's have a look at the Rishbam. So that the Rashbam sticks in. It's speaking where there was tfuah on them, and you're trying to be kind of tfuah by making a Mashiach on the people. In bo lachsor, if they want to back out, they could. There was no kinyan done. The b'maynik, where was there a kinyan over here? Loy Mashiachas tfuah yesh. No one made a Mashiach on the tfuah itself. But loy Rishus Lekeach yesh, and there's no Rishus Lekeach. You know why? The oidam al tzavarim. Even when I schlep these people into my property, they are still independent of my property. And as long as the produce is still on top of the people, Below Hunchon the Rishusai, they're still in the Rishus of the Meicher, not in the Rishus of Lekech. Shaharei Loi Pirkon, they have not yet been unloaded.
Understand it when it's.
Let me just finish this, Let me just finish. The Muchach Seifa, like we're going to see in a moment, the Katani Ba Pirka. The second case was where the halacha changes is when these people were actually unloaded. Machlal the Reisha B'lei Pirka. It would be mashma that the Reisha speaking, when you pull these people into your property, they were still fully loaded with the tefua. Ela hachnasa ba'oma. All that happened was they were pulled into your property. Shemoshchan v'chnisan l'seich beisei katani. V'hak mashicha lav mashicha hiliknais. This mashicha of pulling the people won't work to be kind of the tefua. Sharei ha'adam u'moshich. You're not pulling the tefua, you're pulling the person. U'mashichas adam ton peiros loy mahani. Look, this is a peiros. If you pull a person that's holding peiros, it doesn't work to be kind of the peiros. You have to make a mashicha on the pairs themselves.
But he doesn't speak about the Mahaim. Doesn't really understand by the people if you brought them in because his payal are not mamish.
Who's pulling behind us? It doesn't say chamoidim, it says chamorin. Look at Tais. I'm happy you brought it up. Look at the Tais. Moshe chamorim upalim binun veloy garsinon chamorov upayalav vavov. It's a chamarin. It's the workers. Them can't have a mashma. The Mayri, the Chamorah, the Poyala Blakayach, below Yitachan. Them came below Pirkanami, you'd be kind. Exactly what I'm saying. If they're on the animal and you pull them out of you kind. You're pulling the donkey drivers. Yeah, very, very good. Okay, let's stop here. And mention tomorrow we will get to the raya that the Gemara is trying to bring from this price. So again, the shaila we have to remember is Keilim Shalakech B'Shus Moicher, Keilim Shalakech B'Shus Lakeach. Does the domain that it's in, the property that it's in, take precedence and mevatel anything, or no? A keli creates itself an independent rishus.